Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I'm having a little bit of a neck issue. I hope you'll indulge me. um, so, I would like to talk today about the Democratic Party. But before I can really do that, I need to tell you a story. Tell me if you've heard this one before. It's the post-election period. It's a very tight, contentious race. And you have Republicans just like pushing for them to stop the count. And at one point, there is a riot where they shut down the counting and got what they wanted. George Bush won. This was the Brooks Brothers riot, and it's kind of looked at as sort of an obscure or historical footnote, but it's actually very, very consequential because not only did it lead to the first Republican president of the 21st century who was voted in without getting a majority of the votes, but also it was a launching point for a lot of Republican careers. Now, some of them are kind of people that you would have heard of maybe if you really pay a lot of attention, like say your Matt Schlapp. But one person who is involved in this is certainly someone you've heard of. His name is Roger Stone. You know, the Batman villain looking guy that was part of organizing January 6th. Trump's lackey. That guy. Part of his power comes from the fact that he pulled that off. He was part of the team of Republican operatives that pulled that off. The point of telling this story is to point out that the seeds of where we are today have been sown for many years, longer than I've been alive. I honestly think that the Democratic Party took the wrong message after Carter lost and didn't see how Republicans had also changed the game at the same time. You see, it wasn't always a thing to have these Christian nationalists in the Republican Party. It used to be I'm sorry, sweetheart, semi frowned upon. Look a little tacky, maybe, to be involved in government as a Christian. You know, Christians, if you read the Bible, a lot of it says that you're not really supposed to be as involved in the, like, regular world. You're not, if you're really living your life as a real, true Christian, following the Bible, that's not very compatible with being capitalist, ambitious, government hack. Anyway, what happened was they decided, and Bill Clinton was the beginning of this, they decided to go for the same pool of voters, to convince people who were already voting to vote for them, instead of figuring out who wasn't voting and speaking to them. And in doing so, in order to appeal to the people who are already in the habit of voting, who are maybe a little more uptight already, and they had to get a little more conservative. And so they started the whole tough on crime. I mean, a lot of the really monstrous policies, like mandatory minimums, 3 strikes you're out, that was during a time when Democrats were pretty powerful politically. And a lot of that was implemented by Democrats. Democrats are a center right kind of party. That's what they are. That's who they go for. And there's a reason for that. It's because they serve the donor class. They serve people who can give them money. And you can't get to the point where you're rich enough to be donating a lot of money without being somewhat conservative, somewhat willing to accept the status quo. I could never be a millionaire for long. I couldn't, because I would spend all my money on all the people around me. I couldn't see people in need that I knew or didn't know, and know that I had so much extra and not. I would be a very bad rich person, which is probably a good thing. I think that's, if you would be a bad rich person, you're probably a good person. Anyway. So, the Democrats, what they did wrong after the Brooks Brothers riot, after the 2000 election, is they didn't call foul. And it was foul. Not only was there the Brooks Brothers riot, but there was also the whole, like, stacked Supreme Court. There was a Republican majority in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was the one who was like, stop counting the votes ultimately. Ultimately, it came down to Republican fuckery to get a man in the presidency who never got the majority of the vote. And the Democrats didn't call foul because they wanted to respect the process. There, even in politicians that are generally good people, there is corruption. There's insider trading. There's conflicts of interest. Because these are ambitious people. I never really had a problem with politicians who changed their positions on things to match what the constituency wanted. When well, I'm not going to call it that, when marriage equality was a hot topic and people's opinion, public opinion changed on it in the Democratic Party, the Democratic voters made it clear that the previous party line was not what they wanted anymore. And so you had some people who made change on that issue because what their constituents wanted from them changed and they responded to it. And I thought, that's not a bad thing. It's not. I don't know that we want or need politicians who are so set in their ways that they couldn't change policy positions if that's what their constituents told them they wanted from them. But that's the problem. The constituency that the Democrats are playing to are their donors, not their voters. And they just expect the voters to follow along with whatever they do because they're the clear lesser of two evils. But I'm not sure that I feel comfortable with this anymore, because the fact of the matter is, this isn't, business as usual. We have capitulated and capitulated for 25 years. All right? You guys decided to play nice in 2000 and let them steal one election. And look where we are. That man got us started into 2 wars, one of which was completely without any basis, the other of which was an absolute clusterfuck that lasted long enough that it could drive a car if it was a person legally. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous how awful. And the whole idea of this resistance to climate change being real, even, let alone taking any steps to mitigate it, we got a whole decade behind on that. People got a chance to set their minds on this idea that that was a political issue that they needed to push back on. Like, George Bush and his ridiculous criminal presidency did so much harm to this country. I mean, it caused the financial crash. And we finally get past that and get a different party in power. But instead of taking the aggressive moves that they needed to take to undo all of the aggressive things that he did, they made incremental changes. And Biden did the exact same thing. There were things that Trump did that were stupid that Biden never undid that. Like his stupid tariffs that he did the first term, Biden didn't undo those. The Democratic Party is preferring stability over protecting the vulnerable people in this country right now who are under attack. They are on the precipice of taking medical care away from hundreds of thousands of people. They are on the precipice of underfunding SNAP benefits, taking food out of the mouths of poor people. And Chuck Schumer is just like, what? I'm just going to do everything like I normally did. Right now is the time that Democrats have to decide. Are you going to be Liz Cheney or are you going to be Mitch McConnell? And I would like to point out to you that though Mitch McConnell kept his seat of power, he actually lost all of his power. Because the next time that he tried to exert power after the impeachment, well, the impeachment that he blocked, the second impeachment, it was gone. He didn't have the influence to do what he used to do within the party. He towed the party line so that he wouldn't be excommunicated so he could keep his power, but it didn't work. He still lost all his power. I think Chuck Schumer is beyond saving at this point, but there are Democrats that could step forward and be Liz Cheney. And yes, that may very well mean that you would have to leave the Democratic Party. I think that it's time for a true left-leaning party in this country. Because when you look at it, we have an extreme right party, sort of center right-leaning party, and then another third of the country that doesn't vote. Isn't that interesting? That third of the country, we need a party. We need a left party. And we need to let some of these centrists who actually would like to maybe be a little more left-leaning have a place to go to. Either the Democrat Party needs to start embracing more radical action and radically shift to the left, get considerably more progressive, or it's cooked. That's it. It's done. There is no way that the Democrat Party can stop us from turning into a fascist nation as it is currently working. And so either they've got to get out of the way and let people who actually want to save America in leadership positions, or we gotta